This is my fall update, and I wanted to catch the beautiful fall colors that you see here, like on this Acer japonicum and a few other trees. And so let's take a stroll in the garden, and I've got some updates, some things that I have updated over the summer that are different. You'll want to hopefully see that and appreciate your viewership, and hopefully this will inspire you to maybe to do some creative things in your own yard. Hello friends on YouTube, this is Nathan Lawrence, Good News Tree Service, and welcome to another update of my own personal Japanese garden, which I call the Lawrence Sukashi Cascadian style Japanese garden. Kind of a long name, but very descriptive of the type of pruning that I do and the region in which I live, and the reflective of the type of trees that we see in the natural areas, the mountains and the coastal areas of the Pacific Northwest of the Western U.S. And by the way, how do you like my new shirt that I just got? Let me show it to you. I got this shirt, a Japanese style shirt, in just recently in Minnesota. I was visiting in St. Paul, Minnesota, and right adjacent to Minneapolis, the Charlotte Partridge Ordway Japanese Garden. There in the Como Park, where the zoo and the conservatory are. Amazing Japanese garden. Go back and watch the video on that one. It's one or two videos ago. And one of the most beautiful Japanese gardens that I have seen, and many I've visited 20-some Japanese public Japanese gardens and numerous private Japanese gardens all over the place. And you can go back and scroll back through this YouTube channel and see many of them in various states and countries that I've visited. But you're there in the gift shop at the Como Park Zoo Park Conservatory, where this noted Japanese garden is located. They have a corner of the gift shop where they have things that relate to kind of Japonica, that is things relating to Japan. And I saw this shirt, and I of course had to have it for these videos that I make. So anyway, enjoy, and we'll see more of this later. And so stay tuned for a tour of the garden. Before I showcase the improvements and changes that I've made to my garden over the past several months, let's take a quick tour of the garden and see if you can spot any differences from the previous video. And then we will come back and explain the changes that I've made. Now that we have had a quick overview tour of the garden, in the last few months since I made the last video, I have made some changes. I have upgraded some things, replaced some plants, and maybe you noticed some of these changes in the first part of this video. So the first thing I'd like to point out is these pine trees here in my front yard. I have 3 coast pines, and almost all of my plants are pruned in the Sukashi style of Japanese pruning. So more natural, open them up so that they're very natural as they would occur in nature, but with the branching structures, the architecture of the plants being evident, as I've done with these rhododendrons here. And many of the other plants, the lace leaf maple. I have actually 4 lace leaf maples. And as I've more or less done with the Acer palmatum, the bloodgood, and the vine maples, and most of the other shrubs of the mugo pines. But these 3 coast pines, Pinus contorta, or shore pines, I decided that I wanted a more Niwaki look. Niwaki is the Japanese name for garden tree, but it is also the name of a style of pruning, such as Jake Hobson in his book entitled Niwaki, probably the best book out there on the subject, describes. And in this way, I have tied all the branches down to give the tree a more parallel look. And I will be removing some of these branches as they mature, and I decide which branches that I want to keep to give the pine a more of a horizontal look. And that is a distinct type of Japanese style of pruning. So I've tied these branches down on these trees to give them more of a downward sloping look and more of a parallel look. So I'm experimenting with that. I decided to add that feature or that style of pruning, aesthetic pruning, to my front yard. And these trees have a ways to develop. Here in the Pacific Northwest, we like more of a natural style of pruning. So you do not see the Niwaki style highlighted too much or used. You'll find that more in traditional Japanese gardens, maybe in Japan, or I don't even see too much in the gardens that I visit around the United States and around the world. People like more of a natural look. This is more of an artificial look, but it's very stereotypical Japanese. Also, I'd like to mention these garden trees, these shore pines here. When a garden is being built, a Japanese garden, normally they're importing from a nursery where the trees have already been trained and been pruned and they are mature. These trees are brought in and put in place as part of the original initial landscape project, so that the garden looks established from the beginning. Well, these kind of nurseries are not readily available here in the United States, and you may pay hundreds or maybe thousands of dollars for such a tree because they're so rare and very expensive. So in my garden, I'm having to train the trees as I plant them. It's a little bit more of a challenge and it takes a little bit more time, but that's what we have going on here. Now let me show you something else that's new and improved. I had a pine tree, not a pine tree, it was a fir tree, a true fir, Abies something or other Arizonica, and I loved that tree, but it hit up and died. No matter our best efforts, and I do plant health care, I do diagnostics, I do fertilization, insecticides, pesticides, that kind of thing on trees. I'm an expert on that. But despite our best efforts, sometimes trees die. So I had to pull that tree out here a few days ago, and I found this Douglas fir tree. This is an Oregon state tree. This is the tree that grows prolifically in the western regions of Oregon and Washington, the Douglas fir, Pseudotsuga menziesii. for those of you that are botanists and like names. And I found this Douglas fir tree. It's not actually a fir, it's in its own category. Tsudasuga literally means false hemlock. It's not in the hemlock family either, but I'm going to train this tree to look like some of the trees that we see along the Oregon coast out on rock outcroppings. Now, granted, many of those trees are actually along the Oregon coast. The Douglas fir tree goes there, but many of the ones actually on the headlands are actually Sitka spruces, Picea stitensis, and but I'm going to prune that like that, and I'll insert a picture in here of what I want it to look like eventually, but maybe a little bit more manicured than occurs in the wilds. So as we're going around the front of the garden into the back, I wanted to catch some of the fall colors before these leaves dropped off. This is another Acer palmatum. I tag my trees because otherwise I'll forget them. This is an Acer japonicum green cascade. There's two major kinds of Japanese maples, Acer palmatums. That's the majority of Japanese maples come off of that, but also Acer japonicums. This is an Acer japonicum. It comes off of that parent rootstock. So anyway, we'll go around to the back here. Oh, another thing also, I moved my bell and my rock that's got water in it with a ladle to the front of the torii gate that goes into my backyard, which is my main Japanese garden. Why did I do that? Well, I'm not an expert on Shinto shrines by any stretch, but my understanding is that often the bell and a ceremonial washing, a rock, kind of a font or a bowl that has water, often water pouring into it, where people can either drink or they can wash themselves, kind of as a ceremonial cleansing before going into the garden. And so why is this ceremonial cleansing and actually also the ringing of the bell important Yes, I always just have to do that. Why is that important before entering a Japanese garden or a Shinto shrine, or maybe even the Buddhist shrines? I don't know. I'm not an expert on that, but it's basically, my understanding is to clear the mind and to punctuate the fact and the idea psycho-emotionally that one is stepping into a very special dimension, a special realm called the Japanese garden. The idea is as you're stepping into the Japanese garden is to clear your mind of all of the troubles, the cares, the anxieties, the stress of the outside world, and you're stepping into a sacred, divine, heavenly, Garden of Eden type place where you can rest and experience oneness with nature, peace, love, joy, all those things that a Japanese garden evokes. Think about that. And I have my own, right here, my own little sacred space, if you will, right in my own backyard. Why not? Why not? Anybody can do this. All right, moving on. But I've replaced the bamboo retaining poles or stakes or whatever you call them with peeler logs, and then I have burned them so they have kind of a natural burnt look, and you can actually see the grain of the wood. This is actually pine, lodgepole pine from Eastern Oregon. And then I decided to move this lantern, my largest of my several lanterns that I have, out to the front. It was nestled back in the bushes, kind of hidden out of view. And I moved it out to the front because I wanted to evoke the concept of kind of like a lighthouse or a lantern that's kind of showing the way. And normally, at least lighthouses are put out on rocky prominences. They're not tucked back in the woods, but or in the forest or in the mountains, but out where sailors can see them. And I guess that's not always the case with Japanese lanterns in a Japanese garden, but I decided that I wanted mine more prominently displayed. And then I moved, well, here, of course, before it drops all its leaves, this is one of my favorite maples, the coral bark maple. This is the Sangokaku, and it gets this beautiful orange, yellow, reddish leaves still mixed in with some of the green. And as the chlorophylls are leaving, the green chlorophylls are leaving the leaves and being pulled down into the roots to rest there during the winter, the bark turns a beautiful red color, and it will actually get brighter as more of the chlorophylls are drawn out of the leaves. But you can kind of see, just a couple weeks ago, it was more of a grayish brown color, but just in the last couple of weeks it's turned red, and it will get redder as the winter goes on. So I wanted you to see that. And then there's this old snag here. I pulled this up off the bottom of a river up in the mountains probably 20 years ago. And I've had it elsewhere in my yard, but I decided it's getting so beautiful with the mosses that I wanted to display it. And I have it faced out so that we can actually view it as you're walking into the yard. It's got that beautiful patina that kind of very rustic and natural. It's got the mosses and the lichens on it. And then I surrounded it with Raphiolepises. I've got several that are small ones in the front and some large ones in the back, which will get larger, and I will let them kind of fill in. And then here is, I just planted this last week. This is a Waite's Golden Virginia Pine. I was struck by the yellow color, and also I like the shape of it. I bought this directly from a nursery, and I planted it. I wanted a tree that was kind of like stepping out, arching out over the grass. There was a blank spot in the landscape there, and so I filled that in. And I may put some ground covers underneath, some more moss or something like that. And not much has changed in the back part of the garden here. It remains the same pretty much since the last video. But I would like to highlight this another coast pine that I have here. I've been working on this pine for a number of years. I just got done doing the fall pruning, the needle pruning, and the bud pruning. And it's turning out really nicely. It's sorry it doesn't come out too well against the, you can see it better from a distance. Things always look better from a distance, but that is beginning to look more of like your stereotypical pine trees in a Japanese garden, and that's the look I'm going for. And so it's taken me a few years to train this pine in that way, and I'm going to be developing the pads, the layers to thicken up and to fill in, and it's a multi-year process, but this tree is coming along very nicely, and I'm kind of happy how it's turning out. So there's a quick overview. I think everything else is pretty much the same. So other than our new hot tub, but I think that was in the last video. And I've tried to incorporate the hot tub into the Japanese landscape by putting these bamboo poles that act as towel racks and also as kind of hold on to them as you're stepping up into the hot tub. So trying to kind of integrate the hot tub with the Japanese garden look. And there you go. That's the update on the, what I call my Cascadian Sukashi Japanese garden, done in the Cascadian style of how we see and view our trees in the high alpine, the canyons, the windswept areas along the Oregon coast. And that's primarily how we like to prune our trees in this area of Northwest Oregon. Thank you for watching.